I think the fitness industry is quite toxic and it is full of lies. And what people post online is not what's going on behind closed doors. I cannot sit there and lie, and I know how much better and more fulfilled my life's been since I've stopped doing that. So my mum and dad split up because my dad is a drug addict, and their relationship just got really bad. A big part of me not enjoying my work was because of my eating disorder. I was so hungry, I couldn't sleep. I was literally working 16 hours a day in a PT studio, sleeping in my car. I know that I've gone over such a huge battle with food and lifestyle that my whole life has completely changed. So I worked the whole of lockdown for free. I still didn't have any subscribers on my app, still spent all the money with nothing. People didn't understand how I was not working for free anymore, and I did get quite a lot of bad hate from it.
So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on. Excited?
I'm very excited. I feel like, for context, we met, I was doing like my internship at IBM. I think I even like took time off work because it was like the first influencery event I was invited to.
Desperate for it.
Yeah, literally like get me somewhere. You were teaching a class.
I think was it at the festival?
No, it was before that. It was in like a Sky Garden type situation.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I don't know what it was for. I don't know who
exactly
it was for.
It was in it was for Protein House.
Interesting, not sponsored.
Yeah, the stalls that used to be in Canary Wharf and stuff. Her name was Carly, and she put it on.
That's so interesting. Yeah, well, I remember I definitely like scraped my way in and invited into that. And you were teaching there. So you have been grafting for a very long time, which we'll come on to. But for people who maybe don't know you, don't know your amazing work, could you just give us like a summary of your whole career? How you started, how you got to where you are now, just a few bullet points.
Sure. So I was very academic at school, maths wise, and all I wanted to do when I was in school was work in a bank and totter around in heels. That's all I wanted to do.
Same.
All I wanted to do. Little did I know that I would now be tottering around in trainers every day, but that's all I wanted to do. So I actually went to my sixth form. I got into every single private and like academic sixth form, and I ended up going to like the local college because all my friends went there. And obviously, lo and behold, I dropped out after a year because I absolutely hated it there. Everyone was just going crazy partying. It was just not for me at all. And then I ended up doing an apprenticeship in accounting. And I'd done about 4 or 5 apprenticeships working for, not even joking, £200-300 a month. And that had to cover my travel as well. And I just ended up hating it. I ended up working for the company that you're in the building for and doing their accounts. And again, absolutely hated it. Was so obsessed with fitness at this point and just knew that was taking over my life. I would literally go to the gym in the morning before work on my lunch break. Obviously, I had an eating disorder at this time, which I'm sure we'll come on to later. But I was getting so wrapped up in that that I thought this could be something. This could be some sort of career going here. And I knew that I hated accounting. So it's just crazy that my whole life, all I wanted to do was work in a bank or work in accounts or work as a broker. And I ended up absolutely hating it. And then I found my passion, which was fitness. And I turned something into, my career, which now I obviously absolutely love.
Which has been absolutely amazing to watch, especially as someone who kind of, met you a long time ago. So this idea of accounting, was that like, was an office job and tottering around in heels and all of that, was that like success for you in your mind?
Probably, yeah. Probably actually, yeah. Because I think I was brought up looking at people that worked in like JP Morgan or Canary Wharf, and I had this obsession with Canary Wharf. I don't know what was wrong with me, but I loved Canary Wharf, and all I wanted to do was work at Canary Wharf. So I would try to find jobs in Canary Wharf. Unfortunately, I ended up working in Oval, so it's not quite the same as Canary Wharf, and it was no dress code, so there was no heels involved there at all. Yeah. But I don't know, I just think I looked at people that worked in banks or in brokerages and like working as accountants and working in finance. I thought, wow, they've made it. Little did I know that these people are literally working for pennies. Like I was working for pennies, and people that was in the same job as me that was like maybe 30 or 40 years older than me was pretty much working for the same sort of rate, but was expected to literally give their whole life to that job, meant to come in to work through their lunch breaks. All they thought about was working out the accounts and the minutes for this role. But they absolutely hated it as well. Like I don't think I worked with one person that liked their job.
Really? That's so interesting. And what did your parents do? What like was your upbringing in terms of kind of the jobs that you saw?
Right, so I don't actually talk to my dad.
Okay.
So my dad was a bit naughty.
Mm-hmm.
So he done things that we didn't really agree with. And my dad's a massive drug addict. So
Right.
my mum and dad split up because my dad is a drug addict, and their relationship just got really bad. He wasn't physical or he wasn't abusive, but he would literally he made her so unhappy, and it wasn't a relationship to be had. Like there was stories of him like being downstairs and there was drugs in the house when the kids was around and stuff like that. I was never aware of it at all, which obviously being a 13-year-old, you never would. But I haven't actually spoke to my dad since my mum and dad split up when they was 13. He still talks to my sister, which I personally find a bit bizarre. But so yeah, I have no relationship with my dad. And then my mum used to work, so she was self-employed. So she would be such a hands-on mum. So she'd drop me to school, she'd bring me back to school, which is probably why I actually done really well in school, because my sister was not good in school at all. But my sister didn't want to be dropped here and there. She wanted to do her own thing. And I think she took like sort of was under my dad's wing a little bit more, even though she was still with my mum all the time. But my mum used to make sort of furnishings, so she was very creative. So she used to make curtains and blinds. So she'd have like her table up in her bedroom, sewing it all together, and then she'd go and like fit it. But now she works for a company called Plums, so she just goes around consulting for them. Yeah, no one's ever really been in the city, or no one's ever really been academic.
Yeah.
So I don't really know where this drive to be in the city come from for me. I think I just like the idea of it.
And I think I don't know about you, but kind of for me, it wasn't that when I had this idea of like success in like some floor to ceiling window office, like Canary Wharf type vibes and all of that. I think it wasn't necessarily that, because my parents weren't doing that.
Yeah.
It was more, I think
Films.
very much like, literally like me watching Suits and being like, I could wear I can wear a pencil dress, I'll move over Meghan Markle. And it was kind of like, I always find that interesting because it wasn't that anyone had showed me like, that's the way to make money. It had just been like, well, that looks very put together and that looks like just so glamorous.
That's what I think it was with me, yeah. I think I loved that whole element of being put together, glamorous, like always looking your best, doing a job that you was like around like fit men all the time, and
it's
little don't know I was around old men. I was literally around old men the whole time, old 60, 70-year-old accountants like that literally hated me because I was so young.
and how long did it take you to work out that actually that dream wasn't what you thought it was?
Oh, probably within the first 2 months of working in an accountants. I literally
Really?
just thought, what am I doing here? Like, literally, what am I doing here? I'm going out, I'm getting the same lunch every day. I'm avoiding Christmas parties. Obviously, I think a big part of me not enjoying my work was because of my eating disorder.
Of course.
So I would avoid any single gathering. I would avoid lunchtime meetings. I would even avoid going to the kitchen when there was like birthdays and stuff. So everything was very negative for me in work. I mean, I hated people around me because I had no energy to talk to them. And they probably then found I was rude. I then avoided everything that was fun about work, even like after work drinks. I would never go. I worked in the city for like 3-4 years and I never once went out to like Broadgate or Liverpool Street. Yeah. It's just crazy. And I just think that's why I hated it so much. And then fitness was my escape.
Let's talk about that and your kind of the beginning of your fitness journey, which you've said has kind of started with this vicious cycle of under-eating, restrictive eating. You talked about how you kind of stopped yourself from going out for food and eating certain foods, kind of over-exercising, all of this. I listened to something where it said that on a holiday to Turkey, you let your ex go to breakfast and kind of meal times without you, and got up at 4:45 to do workouts, and it was just this really all-encompassing. I can imagine. At the time, I thought he was just the most evil person in the world.
And I just thought, why is he so against me doing this? He just wanted to spend time with me. That was all. And I didn't understand the love behind it. I just thought, you're evil, you're horrible. Like, you're stopping me from doing this. You're moaning at me all the time. And it was the same as I would go to family gatherings and people would moan at me for not eating, and I'd be like, why are you moaning at me? So I just wouldn't go in the end. And I remember being on that holiday with him and I could not sleep because I had not eaten. And where I was so hungry, I couldn't sleep. I then was thinking about the gym as soon as I woke up, and I was thinking, but what if he doesn't want to train? I'm then not going to be able to train. And little did he know as well, at breakfast, I wasn't really eating anything at breakfast. So I was probably picking around things, probably getting boiled eggs and just eating the egg whites. And then he would look at me and think I was a nutter. So I wanted to eat breakfast on my own. I didn't want him to be around when I was sneaking off to the bathroom and chewing and spitting out my food and stuff like that. And I just thought the best way to do this was to segregate myself. So I would wake up, I would train in case he didn't want to. I would eat breakfast and I'd come back and he would just be so confused as to why I've done it. And little did he know that all this was going on in the back of my mind. But behind closed doors, when people have eating disorders, there's so much going through someone's head. And I would remember going on a cruise. This was one of my most vivid memories. Going on a cruise with my stepdad, my nan, and my mum. And I did not go to dinner once.
Really?
Not once on that cruise. I didn't go off the ship once. Literally, I stayed on the ship. I was known as the girl running on the treadmill to Victoria's Secret catwalks. And I remember being in that gym for hours and hours, running on the treadmill. I'd go to breakfast and lunch with them because at breakfast it was always food that hadn't been cooked in oil, food that hadn't been cooked here. So I knew exactly what I was putting on my plate. I could have the boiled eggs and I could have like a bit of oats and nothing else. But at lunch it would be the same. It would be like a buffet style, so I could have salads. But at dinner, I did not want to go out and be around 3-course meals where my mum would be getting dessert and I'd have a bit, or where I'd come back. And then this whole restriction cycle led to my chewing and spitting, which got so intense, like so intense.
And how did that, if you don't mind me asking, how did that start? Was it kind of when you got into your fitness journey?
Yeah, so I had my eating disorder right from the start. So I used to be a ballroom Latin dancer, and I was very small then, but I wasn't as slim as I was. But I think the whole thing of trying to fit into the Latin dresses, trying to be smaller than the other girls, trying to be smaller than your partner, that's where that probably come from. And I actually see a therapist, and she said to me, do you think anything to do with your dad might have triggered this? And I had never thought of it that way, and I still don't think of it that way, but it happened around the same sort of time. So I would like to, in the future, like deep delve into that a bit more. I maybe want to speak to like an eating disorder specialist, not because of anything else, but because to help other people, I'd like to know, like, maybe that was a trigger. Because I always just blame it on the fact that I looked at the models in the magazines and I looked at all the media around me and I compared myself to that. But I think sometimes there is underlying triggers as well that come from that. And I think my dad always used to overfeed us with sweet sugar, chocolate, sweets. That was his form of love, was buying us clothes and also like giving us sweets and chocolates when my mum said no. So was I then holding myself back from that? Because you never know. Yeah. But I just know that when I started my PT qualification, the reason I done that in the first place wasn't to be a PT. It was simply to just know how to be skinnier.
That's so interesting, and I know that so many people who have weirdly gone through the same journey at kind of the beginning of their fitness journeys. And I think what's particularly interesting with you is that was the motivation to get into what is now your job, which you've been able to turn into something so incredible from a point that I'm sure was so difficult. And I find it really, really interesting that kind of came from that point, and you've been able to make it, you know, your whole life in a way that is clearly so helpful to other people. If you kind of looked back at that person of like who you are, who you kind of were then, what do you think you would think of kind of your career now?
I wouldn't believe it, because I actually think I would probably look, if I was in my shoes now, I was just about to say this to you, I would probably think that I was lying. Because I personally think, I don't know about you, I think the fitness industry is quite toxic and it is full of lies. And what people post online is not what's going on behind closed doors. We've all seen it. We've seen influencers behind closed doors. We've seen fitness trainers, and they're not doing what they're saying they're doing. And all they're talking about is their food and their diet, and they're prepping for weeks and weeks. They're filming all their content and they're coming back. Personally, an eating disorder never goes away, I don't think. I can admit that sometimes I have negative thoughts and it never goes away. And I don't care what anyone says. If you say you're completely healed from it, that's not the truth. But I am so good now at getting rid of that negative thought within seconds. And I could never be that imposter. I literally sometimes get on my camera and I think, I can't sit here and tell all these people to come back from holiday and not worrying about what you've done on holiday and then do it myself. Because I cannot sit there and lie. And I know how much better and more fulfilled my life's been since I've stopped doing that. But I think the industry is full of so many people that say one thing and do another thing. And that is when it's just not genuine. And for me, like, even if I lost all my followers tomorrow, I know that I've come over such a huge mental battle. I've come over such a huge battle with food and lifestyle that my whole life has completely changed. And if I get one thing out of it, that's what I want to get out of it.
Yeah. And at what point did you start to did the tide kind of turn in the way that you were thinking about food and thinking about fitness and starting that recovery?
I don't think there is a point there. And for people that said there's one thing, I don't think there is. It was years and years of slip-ups. It was years. I mean, I used to probably be the worst personal trainer in the world. I've said this before actually on my Instagram, but I remember once a girl come into me maybe 5 years ago, and I made her cry. And I actually made one of my clients cry. And I remember that day so vividly because I was still really suffering with my problems of eating. And she come in and she said to me, I ate this and I don't know, I can't stop doing it. And I literally just went to her, well, you're just being greedy. And I just remember saying it, and then she started crying. But I couldn't understand how someone else could be going through such a completely different journey to me. I don't really speak about this as much, but my sister was a size 24. So my sister had the reverse to me, and she come to us maybe a year and a half ago and said, "Cool, like I feel like I can talk to you about this, but I've got an eating disorder in the opposite that you have." She was like, "I cannot stop eating." She was like, "I've tried laxatives, I've tried making myself sick." She's like, "I then just go and eat more," and she was getting bigger and bigger, but we was never able to understand it. And I think evolving through life, I could sit down with her and I could have such an honest conversation with her, and I feel like you learn so much on your journey. But back in the day, like, all I had was this one headspace. So for me, like the learning and meeting new people, learning about myself, learning how much more happier I would be eating and enjoying life, and also learning that what I've been told for so many years isn't the truth. You don't need to starve yourself. You don't need to overtrain. And actually putting it into practice and seeing it working was what made me then get over it, I think. Actually learning from my mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And was there how did you start to see fitness as this kind of positive? Because I feel like a lot of people I know who have suffered with eating disorders have often kind of gone, because it's been such a negative, they've had such a negative relationship with either the gym or with food or whatever, it's kind of just completely move out of that zone. When did you start to see it as a more positive thing rather than like a negative in the gym kind of needing to change you, and instead actually just being part of your life?
Well, I completely understand what you mean when people then move completely away from the fitness industry, but there's a reason people train. There's a reason people be happy and healthy. It's because it makes you wake up in the morning and you're way more positive, you're more productive, you have more energy, you live longer, your heart health's better. And I think it's so important to not forget that. And training isn't waking up and just going to the weight session if you don't enjoy weights. There's so many forms of fitness, and I think people forget that because they've been so strung into, oh, I need to do cardio and then go back and do weights. Well, why don't you stop doing that and do some boxing? Release the anger. Why don't you go do some dancing? Any form of movement's good, but moving your body makes you so much more productive. As a businesswoman, I'm sure you know that. If you don't train for weeks and weeks, you don't have that same motivation. You don't have that same productivity. You need to move your body. You need to eat healthy. It's what's keeps us alive. It keeps our brains going. So I think for me, I remember every day how that made me feel. And I never wanted to lose that part of myself and that part of my life because I knew how important it was. It's just making it more of a positive and making it something that I enjoyed rather than something that I didn't want to do every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you need to be really, you've clearly been so kind of self-aware in that journey to be able to understand that actually this can still be part of my life, but I'm going to treat it in X, Y, and Z way instead. And yeah, I will say that I very much agree with you on that point. Mine's less so that I need to train kind of every day. It's more that like kind of that consistently. It's more whenever there's something that's consistently like wrong, or I feel consistently kind of low or unproductive or any of these things, it's always I realize I haven't trained for a few days, which I think is really interesting because my body, it still, all of these years I've trained for years and years, and I still never put two and two together until I'll have that session. I'll have that gym session. I'll be like, oh,
there we go.
Cool,
She's back.
And that happens every single time. And I think it's so interesting. I think it's really powerful that you've been able to turn that into such a good thing, when I can imagine that sometimes it could be really triggering. And just knowing that actually you and your body, you know, everyone will be so different, and you and your body, like, you do need that, and that is a great kind of outlet for you, but being able to do that in a more positive way.
Yeah, exactly.
So you became a PT. You started kind of PTing. How did you get from there to where you are now?
So as we all know, there's only so many hours in a day, and there's only so many clients that you can have as well, and there's only so many people's lives that you can get involved in every single day. Being a PT is quite draining because you're going to give 100% to someone. Sometimes they come in floods of tears and you need to take them out for a coffee. And I'm an energy absorber. So I would literally come home sometimes either really drained or really happy. And I didn't really want to be around that every single day. I loved my clients, but I was literally working 16 hours a day in a PT studio, sleeping in my car. And do I want to be doing that when I'm 40 years old? Even when I'm 30 years old? I mean, I don't want to be sleeping in my car for £30 an hour because I was working in Essex, and I just thought, what am I doing? I remember with my boyfriend at the time, and I said to him, I'm going to make one of these guides. And I remember I actually met one of the girls that worked with me with Women's Best, and I was like, I'm going to do it. And she was like, yeah, just do it. I remember I literally made the first guide with a tripod and a 3-second countdown timer. So I'd stand at the top and I'd squat at the top, squat at the bottom, and I'd squat at the top again in this gym with my phone. And then I wrote every single page of this book. I wrote all the plans in it, and then I sent it off to an editor. And I mean, I've never really spoke about money on this. On the first guide, I earned 150k, and it cost me 300 quid.
Yeah.
And it literally took me maybe a month to put it together and make sure it was all good. And the transformations that come off the back of this was just, I never thought this was ever going to happen. I mean, I was working my ass off on Instagram for years, posting videos, posting transformations, posting my clients. So I built myself up to, I think I had about 200,000 followers at this point. And then I started writing these guides, and I wrote 5 of these guides. And the people that was messaging me saying my life's been changed, but it was just a generic 8-week guide. And I'd done 6 of them. And then I was just thinking, again, scalability, like, how many of these guides can I do? There's only so many 8-week guides that I could do. Yeah. People are going to get bored. I want to help people on a bigger level. I want there to be videos on there. I want there to be transformations. I want there to be weight loss, weight gain, to help people with eating disorders, help people that are pregnant. So then I decided I was going to build this app, and I put all of my savings into building this app. Every single penny that I had earned from these guides and from PT into this app. And it took maybe, I think it was 18 months to build. I found an app developer, got the best team together. I did not cut back on costs. When I'm saying to you, I spent every penny. I didn't have a penny to my name. And then I launched the app May the 12th, I think it was. And then lockdown happened 2 weeks later. And I remember having my app launch party, and everyone was there like, woo, having the most, obviously this thing in the background. I'm thinking, nothing's going to happen with it. Yeah. It's just a virus. There was not a single home workout on this app. And I'd literally spent my savings putting this app together, telling people to download it. It was doing amazing, fantastic. And there was not a home workout on there. And I'd never done a home workout in my life. I don't know if you'd ever done one before lockdown.
I did, because I actually weirdly started my fitness journey doing home workouts.
Oh, really?
Just because I was like 16 and I don't think you were even allowed in the gym, or I definitely couldn't get a membership.
I had a treadmill in my room. So
really? Yeah. I was just doing burpees.
Yeah, I had a little box room with a treadmill and it fall into the wardrobe. But I'd never done a home workout before. And I literally hated the idea of it, because I didn't really like HIIT training. I didn't really like bodyweight training. I thought I just need to go and do loads of squats. And I didn't actually really even enjoy the workouts I was doing in the gym, because I found them very boring. Same old plan. I was actually going to do a bikini competition before lockdown. So I was videoing myself every day in these bloody hills. Yeah. And I had a plan by this guy, Tom, and I was going to do WBFF, which was so random. But obviously that lasted about 3 weeks. And I'd never done a home workout before in my life. And I panicked. I literally just panicked. Not only is the app going to fail, I'm going to fail, because I'm not going to be able to train. I'm not going to be motivated to train. And that is my whole, that's my passion. Like, what am I going to do? We don't know how long we're going to be in this lockdown for. Even if we was in it for a week, it was like the worst thing in the world for me. So that's when I started doing the live workouts. And I think I was like one of the first people to start doing the live workouts. And I remember thinking, I'm going to look like a donut, but I've just got to do this because I'm not going to train otherwise unless people are watching me. I'm a bit of a performer. And I thought, if I'm doing it on a camera, there's no way that I'm not going to train.
Accountability, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm telling these people, like 250,000 people, come with me every day, 9 a.m, we're going to train together. And I think on the first one, I probably got 1,000 people on it, which is still quite a lot. Yeah. And then within 3 to 4 weeks, I had 30,000 people doing my workouts with me. And it was just crazy. I remember, it's actually quite pathetic when I think about it, but every night I wrote down how many followers I had on my notes. But I was gaining 6,000 a night. Yeah. It was crazy. So I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be like, oh my God, how many people are going to log on to my workout today? I better put a good playlist together. I'd have to do my hair in my little buns. there's no way these people are seeing me in a bad outfit. I'd put my outfit together. But anyway, going back to the app. So even then I was working for free. So I worked the whole of lockdown for free. I still didn't have any subscribers on my app. Still spending money with nothing. And then I said to my PA at the time, who was also my best friend, I said, I'm going to have to get these people over because I'm not earning any money here. And how I done that was I said, there's going to be no more free workouts. And if you want to continue doing these live workouts with me, you've got to join me on the app. And I would do them at 9 a.m, film them, and then I would put them on the app straight away. So how I moved it over, first of all, I turned off the 24-hour thing. So, you know, when you could post a live for 24 hours. Yeah. So I stopped doing that and I just done it live. And then I said, if you want to catch it later, you have to go onto the app. And then I said, all it's going to do is be on the app. I'm going to post the day before, you get it at midnight, and that's it. And then everyone moved over. Having the negativity from that was quite hard at first.
I can imagine.
Because people didn't understand how I was not working for free anymore. And I did get quite a lot of bad hate from it. But the amount of positivity that come from it, people that had like cancer, people that was literally like had just lost family members because of COVID, and they're telling me like it's completely changed their life. Yeah. I've got one girl that trains me, she's got one arm, and every day she shows up and she's doing like press ups and she's doing burpees and stuff, and it's mental. I know people that try to kill themselves during lockdown, and then they've come to me and they've said, literally, you got me through a dark time. So having that scalability and being able to go from helping the people on the guides to at one point the app having like 100,000 subscribers was just like crazy. And I just feel like that was my mission, is to help people on a bigger scale.
Were you worried at that point where you kind of thought, I'm going to have to turn off this live workout thing and put it onto the app? Were you worried, because it's such a saturated market as well, were you worried at any point that people would just be like, oh, well, I'll just find something on YouTube or whatever instead?
100%. But at the same time, you can't do it for free. And in life, you have to take risks.
Absolutely.
You have to. So of course I could have carried on doing the free workouts every day and I could have got to 3 million followers. I don't really care how many followers I've got. I care about the people that follow me, that buy my product, buy into me, love me. I love them. I have a relationship with them. I don't want ghost followers that just look on my page and like my picture. I want people that I can interact with, that I can meet, that are going to come to boot camps that I'm going to do. What's the point in having 3 million followers when you don't have anyone that loves what you do, or don't have anyone that believes in what you do, and you don't believe in them? Because if someone follows you and it's for just the free workouts and they're just coming on every day just to use your service, but they don't want to invest in you, they don't want to meet you, they don't actually believe in you, then what's the point? Literally, what's the point? You might as well be going to the gym and training on your own. Yeah,
and how have you seen that kind of develop since then? Because obviously we've changed. The world has changed so much since we were in mid-lockdown. There was definitely some spikes. I mean, we would have, from similar products, we would have seen kind of very similar spikes and all of these things. How have you coped with that change since then, and what have been the main changes?
I mean, at first, do you know what? I've actually coped with it quite well. I'm not going to lie. I've, of course, lost a lot of subscribers, naturally, right? Yeah. But, I mean, that just comes with age and acceptance, right? Yeah. I'm not going to throw my toys out the pram and go, why have I done this? What can I do to beat them? Because I'm not going to do something that I don't believe in. I'm not going to change my app to be suited to more people. I'm not going to change it to be more of a less aggressive workout. We are known for hard workouts. I'm not going to change that just so more people subscribe. Yeah. I want to, of course, scale the app even further out. We haven't even touched any countries except from the UK. I was talking to someone in press the other day and I've not had a single bit of press for the app. Like it's just literally been organic. So now, of course, it's hitting other markets and hitting other like ways to get more subscribers, not changing who we are as people and not changing what we believe in and not changing what I've built and the community, because that to me is the most important thing. So I'm not going to change the app into something that I don't want it to be, but I need to focus on getting different PR companies in there, getting it into America, getting it into Australia, for example. It is just the UK at the minute. I mean, there's a couple people dotted here and there, but again, we just need to upscale.
So what is the next big goal with that?
I think we just need to keep working. We're literally always employing new people. We've gone from a team of me and my best friend all just sitting in my kitchen. Within the last year, there's like 12 of us. We're getting in-house developers, which is a big, scary hire. I mean, it's one of the scariest hires ever because they earn money.
Yeah, no, I know.
They earn money. And I'm just thinking, we better hope we're getting more subscribers because otherwise we're not going to be able to pay these people and they're not going to be able to afford their weekly bread. But it's stress. It's stressful. I think I need to start realising that I maybe need to take a step down from certain things. I'm very creative, but am I the best CEO? Probably not. Realising that in life you're not going to be great at everything and that other people are way more wise than me. I've made so many mistakes. I'm 25 years old. I don't know much about business and I'm learning everything on the job. And I'm just becoming such a bigger entrepreneur as I'm getting older. But I mean, we all have mess ups, right? And I think learning from them massive and not trying to be someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've had loads of people on here that are so successful and stuff like that. I could listen to podcasts. I could look at you. I mean, you've done so amazingly well. And I could try to copy things that you're doing, but what's the point? Because it's never going to be me. And I'm never going to be as good as you at what you're doing. So
I'll never be as good as you at what you're doing. It goes both ways.
Exactly, yeah.
What I think is really interesting is from like talking to you, you've talked about pivoting, scalability, you've talked about...
And then I say I'm not a good entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, exactly this. You've talked about all of these different things that you've talked about how you were limited to kind of what exactly you're doing, all of these things. Every single part of your story, whether people want to look at online influencers any way they want to look at them, is such a story of entrepreneurship. I wonder, do you think people take you seriously as a businesswoman?
Oh, good question. And no, probably not, actually, because I'm quite ditzy. I'm in your face. I'm loud. I'm a performer. I'm common as monk. So at first, no. But then I think they get talking to me and then they realise that I am. But I think I do get judged quite a lot to start off with, 100%. I'm fine with that, to be honest with you. I quite enjoy that because I like proving people wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, at first, no, probably not.
Because I think through talking to you, it is so clear that you are such a businesswoman. And I want you to, when you say that, like, you know, you won't do this, you won't do this, like, I want you to, like, know how everything you've said, that's not obvious.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I think the way you talk about it like, oh, of course this is obvious. Like, of course I'm only limited to my time and so I do this, that and the other. Like, you are clearly so talented at what you're doing. And I think that we as a like society, especially when looking at women who look a certain way, who act a certain way, who will be fun and share personal life and all of these things, we don't look at them in the same way as we look at a male entrepreneur.
100%.
And I wanted to see, I find it interesting whether you think that people see you as a businesswoman in the way that you so clearly are.
Yeah, and I think as well, a lot of the time, even if people do see you as that, they try and make out they don't. And that for me is like, I meet people and I'm like, why are you acting a certain way around me? And I don't know about you, but is your office quite female or is it mixed?
We're 80-something% female.
I've found that I've employed people over time and a lot of the men that I've employed don't look at me as a boss. And that's quite upsetting to see. But I find some of the times there's quite difficult conversations to be had. With women as well that are older than me, I do find they look down on me quite a lot. But growing into a businesswoman and having our own business and employing people, I do think sometimes that I am judged. And that's fine, but I think it's then just the awkward conversations that need to be had within the office that I don't like.
I think it's really interesting because everyone as an entrepreneur goes through such a journey in terms of building a team with the right types of people, creating a culture as well. I think that, you know, definitely in the early days of when I was doing what I was doing, I was creating a culture that would probably try and stick me in position as a leader in areas that I don't think I should have been a leader, and that was entirely based out of kind of insecurity of myself and actually thinking, oh, well, I need to prove myself in X, Y, and Z, and actually I would have been better just being like, actually the reason I hired you is because you're really, really good at this. But I also think that it's about creating a you won't need to motivate the right people. And creating a team of getting like the right people on the bus. And then choosing the kind of direction you're going, I think is so, so important, because there should be no circumstance where you're not your authority, because it's not about telling people what to do, but you've done what you've done, and I think that very much speaks for itself. And I think it's I find it really interesting speaking to young female entrepreneurs who haven't necessarily had a journey that we see as inherently like, it's not wearing suits, it's not, it might it still comes with posting in a bikini online. It might, like any of these things that take away from our view of what we feel comfortable with an entrepreneur being. And I just wanted to say, because I think that you're if you had a checklist of everything that would make an entrepreneur, taking risks, pivoting, like all of these things, I think you'd fulfill all of them, and I
flattered.
Hope you know that. But so going back to the kind of idea of lockdown and everything, I think that you kind of had this quote unquote overnight success. I think it's really interesting because I'd known you for years before, and then lockdown came about. You did something so fantastic that captured the nation and really, really showed really provided what people wanted at that time. And so kind of people call it an overnight success, but there were years and years of graft, and I'd say like a really big breakthrough.
It's just something that needed to happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But also not everyone in that position would have been able to make it do so well as you did.
And it was hard handling it as well. I mean, I know a lot of people think, oh God, you were so lucky. I literally used to cry in my flat numerous times a week because I was so overwhelmed and the pressure I just felt. I mean, I was up some mornings till 6 a.m. writing like postage bags out so I could send people t-shirts. I sent out like 5,000 t-shirts in lockdown, and the amount of work that I was doing, it wasn't just that live workout in the morning, which everyone sees as. It was crazy. I'd literally be on my phone all day replying to people. And yeah, it wasn't an overnight success. I'm happy for people to think that because I mean, I still worked really fucking hard in lockdown.
Yeah.
Like it was not just that hour in the morning, as I've just said. Like it was 7 a.m. till 9, 10 p.m. at night. Obviously no one could see their families, but remember, you're working and I didn't have a single like release. So sometimes you have that release to get away from work. I didn't have that because you wasn't allowed to. But I just think that's come from years and years, as you say, of me grafting. I mean, I'm 25. Lockdown was 3 years ago? And before that I was a trainer for 4 or 5 years. So, I mean, I don't know what I was doing in them 4 or 5 years before that, if it was such an overnight success. And I'm not the best trainer in the world. I'm not the best personal trainer. I'm not the best, person at doing squats or whatever. But I turned all that workout on every day. I showed up and I'd done what I've been doing for 5 years before that. I showed up to every single session. I would never cancel a PT client. I would never cancel a boot camp that I used to do. I used to drive from Essex to Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield, all in one weekend. I remember once I was even falling asleep at the wheel and Mum had to take over to do these boot camps of like 30, 40 girls in a boot camp. I used to lug all my like resistance bands up there. I used to take my mum with me everywhere I went. I even used to get the plane to Scotland. I used to go to Plymouth, and I built that community up. And I knew that this is what I wanted to do. So that's probably how I did handle the lockdown success, is I've been doing it for so many years.
And before it kind of had that big point that it really, really took off, was there ever a point within those years and years of graft? I know you've said that you also found that. Up. Yeah, was there a point that you thought, just pack it all in? Yeah, and it was actually just before the app, because I thought it was dead. I was falling out of love with one-to-one PT, and as I said, I was taking out everyone's energy. I wasn't getting anywhere with Instagram, and all I was doing was posting pictures of my ass. I mean, literally, like, all I was doing was posting pictures of my ass. I mean, they was really provocative pictures in the end. We won't call things provocative, because I will say that I think in general, I don't think you can provoke people to, you know the word provocative? Yeah. I hate that word. Really? Yeah. Right, that was very sexy. Sexy, great. Yeah. Provocative. Very sexy. I was pulling my knickers down and everything, right? Honestly, bum was out. I was doing all the poses. I was editing the shit out of my pictures. Like, I didn't even look like that. And then I literally had every single cosmetic procedure done to my face because I was so unhappy with my business, my life. I had every single failed relationship going. And I just think everyone could see that. And that's why my Instagram went from here to here. It's because I wasn't being myself. I was literally changing everything about myself. I'd walk out the door and be so petrified in case I see anyone that followed me, because I wasn't the person that was online. If you looked at the videos that I was talking to, I completely lost my personality. I was soulless. And it's really weird because it all happened in like one sort of going. I started not posting so many pictures. I started just relaxing with myself. I dissolved all my fillers. I started eating better. I stopped putting so much pressure on my body. I done less hours PTing, and I feel like I just got a lot happier. And then lockdown happened, and I felt confident to turn on the camera, because
4 months before that, there was no way I could have put that camera on. No way.
And how did you decide rather than, for example, like going back to accounting or something, how did you decide to put it into the app instead and to decide to really still push on?
I don't really know.
Just did it.
I knew I hated accounting. At one point, I even thought I was going to be a makeup artist.
Really?
I love doing makeup. And I thought, well, if this fails, I'm just going to go do makeup because I think I would be a really good makeup artist. I do my makeup really well. I love makeup. Probably would have hated that as well. But I had this passion for fitness. And I knew that fitness was always going to be with me. So I don't know, I had this idea about this app for years. And I thought, why am I sleeping on an idea that I've had for years that I can afford to put together? And I think anything with a subscription base is quite a good idea. I mean, relying on subscribers rather than relying on face-to-face clients is a lot easier. So I kind of believed in that idea quite a lot. I mean, how many apps have you got on your phone? How many people do people have apps on their phone they use daily? And technology is just evolving all the time. So I really wanted to stick to that idea. And I didn't want to just give up. I'm not a quitter. So I think that's where that come from. And my love for fitness as well backed it.
I still think it's such a brave move as well to put everything you have into something. And I think that's obviously very much kind of like the essence of entrepreneurship.
Maybe it's because it came out of nowhere though. Those plans, like I never expected them to do that. And where I've never grown up with money, like none of my family ever had money. So I wasn't really scared of losing anything because I didn't really have anything to lose. I mean, what did I have to lose? That money I'd earned within like a year and a half, 2 years of my hard work. And I knew that I wasn't going to go anywhere further with it. So what, am I just going to sit there now and go back to my 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. clients? Or am I going to take a chance? So I didn't have any family to rely on. I didn't have anything else going for me. And I just thought, right, so I can either plod along or I can actually invest my money and give it a go. So I think that's why I've done that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how has it been running the app since then?
Stressful. I actually started, as I mentioned earlier, I started having a therapist because at one point, I think it was just before last summer, I had my first ever panic attack. I was getting really overwhelmed. And I remember sitting in my office, because I was in my house at the time, and I was so overwhelmed. And I literally had my first ever panic attack. I was sitting on the floor and I could not breathe. And I rang my mum about 2 hours later and I said, I need to get a therapist. And she went, what? She was so scared.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, mum, it's a normal thing. I think like loads of people were having it at the minute. That night, I went through loads of different people. I had a phone call with someone at 10 o'clock at night. And the next day I had a therapy session with her. I was quite lucky because I actually got on with a woman, because sometimes you have to go through a few. And I had her for just over a year. And even reading books and stuff like that really helped me managing the app. Because I've read books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, the most cliche books, but it really helped me with like dealing with people's personalities. Because as a boss, I could be quite snappy and quite flippant, and I used to think I was right in every situation. And you can't be like that when you're a boss. No. You need to be respectful about other people. You need to be able to see how other people are thinking. And my best friend was my PA, and I didn't ever want to upset my best friend. And I think this is why I evolved so much as a businesswoman and as a boss. Because I would see her coming in and I'd want to understand how she's thinking. And now whenever someone's in a situation, you have to think about how they're thinking as well, even down to your clients, how they're thinking, how they're feeling. And I think running a business like an app where there's so many clients on there, you have to be so considerate. So I think dealing with a big scale operation like that, it is so important to see where other people are coming from.
Yeah, what I find really interesting, even kind of when you say that, is the fact that, you know, your business is online, you're going to receive a lot of feedback, good or bad, kind of all the time. And I heard you say on another podcast I listened to with you on, that you said, I used to ask things like, did you like this workout? And then get pissed off when people say no. I thought this was such a good point, and such, actually, when you think about it more, the kind of idea behind how you build a business that can be the best business it can be, which a lot of the time is online at the moment. Yeah. And also how to protect your mental health and how to create these boundaries around yourself, especially online, where you are able to still live your life while kind of having this input, and while selling, you know, a product to someone. It doesn't mean that you need to sell your soul or kind of sell your mental health. Do you think you found that balance between that?
And the sell your soul thing is literally a conversation I actually had with my therapist, and she was like, Courtney, when this business is done, are you going to look back and say, you've lived your life? Where's Courtney in this? Where you're mentioning all these people, you're mentioning your clients, you're mentioning your staff. Where's Courtney? So you're not putting yourself first. You're going on holiday and you're pre-recording like 2 workouts a day before you go, and then you're asking people if they enjoyed it, and you're getting pissed off because they didn't like it as much as you did.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to like what you do, but not everyone's also doing everything that you do all the time. There was like, you are a human being, and to work at your fullest, you also need to think about your own mental health, and you need to be able to show up in 10 years' time. If you burn yourself out so quickly, don't give yourself any holidays. Work until literally 10 p.m. every night, doing 3-4 workouts a day because you want to go to Mykonos for 5 days. And it's just, how much is too much? Like, how far are you going to go for this job? And I think that was one thing that I used to worry so much about, what people thought about me and what people thought about, because I think I'm so passionate about what I do, right? So if someone said something bad about it, even down to the fact of Courtney done that squat wrong, I'd be like, how dare that? I'd come up from the gym, I'd stomp up to Alex and Georgia, I'd go, how dare they say they didn't like Warrior Wednesday? And they're like, cool, like, we didn't like it either. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How can you say that? And they're like, Courtney, not everyone's going to like it. You've gone into a music theatre before, of like Drake could be playing, like, oh, didn't like that song you done.
Yeah.
Do you think Drake cares what I think?
It's never, I think one of the most important things is that, you know, when you're running a business online, it is this new type of business where you have this instant feedback loop, and it is so easy to...
People don't think.
But also it's just like, that, in the same way as you saying that you would go to a concert and maybe say like, oh, I didn't like that Drake thing, that is nothing on Drake.
Nothing on Drake.
It's also nothing on you. There is no fault in this whole situation. But that being said, there's still hurt on the side of, you know, I think there's what we're not necessarily prepared for is this whole new style of business where it's not just your business and your income and all of the money you've invested into all of this. It's also your kind of pride and your well-being and everything when you've spent hours working on something and someone's like, oh, don't like this.
Exactly. And I've literally been sitting there writing this work up since 5 a.m. and then I go on there and they're like, that was terrible. I'm like, really? Because I didn't sleep last night thinking about this.
And so how have you managed to kind of detach yourself from that more, so you're still really interested in how you can serve your community best, but also very wary of the fact that you can't hold that load all on your own and it's also not yours to hold?
Listening to people more and realising that they're not wrong when they say that. That is their opinion and I can't change their opinion, and that's fine. If everyone always judged my opinion, I would be very annoyed. So listening to that but not taking it in. If I can change it and if I want to change it, then I will. But you don't have to please everyone all the time. And I think that's very healthy, because if someone turned up every day and they was like, I love what she does, I love what she does, I love what she does, it wouldn't really be healthy to have everyone so obsessed with you all the time. Sometimes it's okay for people not to like things about you, and that's just what makes you a human being, right? I want to be genuine, I want to be authentic. And the way that I open myself up on my Instagram, on my social media, and even on my app, I'm opening myself up to criticism because I don't want to be a perfect version of myself. If I do something wrong mid-workout, or if I say something wrong on Instagram, I kind of just want to leave it there. And by doing that, I am opening myself up to negative comments.
I would also say that you want people to engage. And by that, I don't mean you want, you know, engagement, all of that. It's if someone's saying, hey, I didn't enjoy that workout so much, they have engaged in that workout enough to be able to give you an opinion on it. And that is something so valuable. Companies would kill, more traditional companies would kill for that type of feedback and would kill for that. But when it's so directly related to you and your almost like self-worth, because it's you who poured your life and soul into something, I do think it's really hard. And I do think that we'll start to see more and more people who've kind of had these online businesses that, you know, as soon as it becomes something that's monetized, it's completely different standards. If it wasn't, of course, people are paying for something. It's, you know, it's really important. But actually being able to detach that from yourself and from your self-worth, like if I release something in a color that someone doesn't like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for either of us, you know, all of these things. And I think that's such a steep learning curve, especially with having any businesses online. So kind of with that in mind, what are your future goals? Where do you want to go? What's the big goal? What's the end goal?
Funny, we were just saying about that, because I think a lot of my scrutiny comes from it's under my name. So my app is called my name, which is great. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I don't really care for it to be under my name. So a massive rebrand is coming next year. Hopefully. Very clever. Takes a long time. Yeah, because the people that was with me in lockdown, they're going to be with me for a long time. But bloody hell, like how many, I don't care. I've got 5 other trainers on there that are brilliant trainers. I don't want it to be called my name anymore. It's more than me. It's a overall health hub. It's not just me coming online and training people. I've got 5 trainers, I've got nutritionists, I've got the most incredible recipes. It's more than me. It's quite weird. It's called my name, I think, personally. So I want that to completely transform, and I want it to be the top health and fitness app. I don't just want it to be you come online, you do real-time workouts. I want it to help people in so many different ways. Obviously, I've got 2 other brands that are literally, I'm pulling my hair out over, but they're brand new brands, and I know you can obviously relate to it. New brands are stressful, but doing something, again, they're passion projects and something that I love. And I think just not trying to add anything else to my agenda right now.
Yeah.
Relaxing, sticking to this, building my team, building a nice healthy relationship at work, and not stressing myself out to do anything more. No more books, no more doing anything that's crazy or gonna take over my life, no more brands. I've got 3 brands now that I really am completely 100% dedicated to and I'm passionate about. I think anything else, I don't want to take on opportunities, ads and stuff that I don't believe in that I used to do years ago. And I've not done that for years now. So for me, just sticking to things that I'm truly passionate about, and that's where my motivation comes from.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank
You've
you.
been so fantastic. I just appreciate the honesty so much. And I think that you're such an open person. And I think that people can kind of tell that online. And I think it's just incredibly impressive, everything you've done.
Oh, thank you so much.